Alright, here's the four microSD card adapters that I'll be testing. I'll be testing the same SanDisk 32 gig micro SDHC card that I have in this one, in every single one of them, to basically to make sure that I get consistency across the board. I've been asked lately whether it makes any difference whether they say micro SDXC or SDHC or so on and so forth. And well, I'm going to test them out. And finally, after I'm done testing them out, I'm going to show you the guts of this one that I opened up. And you'll see something that's quite surprising. Well, let's go and do the test first, and then see how they square up, and then I'll show you what's inside. Okay, this is a micro SDHC adapter, which I actually took apart to look at the inside of the guts of it. I'll post a picture of it after, so you can see. But I don't want to take it apart again. As you can see, it's somewhat split because it's the first one I'm going to test for speed. Okay, and as you can see, it says micro SDHC. All right, I'm using Roadkill's disk speed version 2. It's a little program. I'll put the it's a little disk speed program. I'll put a link to it on the description for you if you want to use it. But you see the maximum read speed here is 22.35 megabits per second. Overall score is 4308. Blah blah blah. Basically, here's the breakdown on the speed from their website, and as you can see, I'm pretty well middle of the road. But really, it's not about the results, it's about consistency across all the cards. Now this is the first card I showed you that's been that I ripped apart to look at the guts and put back together again to test. So I bent some of the pins in doing that, but I think I got them pretty well straight. But who knows, probably will affect some of the speed, knowing that the contacts aren't the greatest at this point. So there's the speed test for the first card, 22.35. This is the microSD, microSD-HC, microSD-XC adapter, again by SanDisk. And as you can see, one of the things I did is I put a piece of tape over the lockdown because it was moving when I put it into the computer and took it out of the computer. But this will be on the second one I test. Okay, here's the results for the second card. 22.56 megabytes per second is the maximum read speed. Again, it's not really about speed. It's not really a speed test. I'm looking for consistency across all the cards. So here we go. 22.56 compared to the first test, and it's 22.35. Now, considering I mangled the first one, the first card has been mangled. In other words, I took it apart, bent the pins, bent them back, so on and so forth. It's well within the same range of the other card. So really, 0.25 megabits per second, not much of a difference. So on to the third next. This will be the third adapter that I'll be testing. As you can see, it says microSD, microSD-HC, and microSD-XC, and it's just the adapter card. That's all I'm testing. I'll be using the same microSD-HC card on each one of them. Okay, here's the results on the third card. Again, this one says it's micro SDXC, but as you can see, I'm at 22.5 megabytes per second max, and well, that's not much different than this one actually. Almost exactly the same, and a little bit faster than my original one that I hacked up. But again, very, very much within the same range of speed and performance. Okay, so I mean, they vary a little bit, but not much. Yeah, basically identical, within 1 or 2% of each other. So on to the next one. This is the fourth adapter card I'll be testing. It's a PNY microSD adapter. Nothing special. It doesn't say microSD. It does say microSD, but it does not say microSD-HC or SDXC. As you can see, so it's basically a generic microSD card. Here's my fourth test, and as you can see, I've scored a maximum read speed of 22.56 megabytes per second. And as you can see on the web page, again, pretty close to all my other results. In fact, identical almost to the second one. But again, there's less than a 1% difference in any of these tests across the board. So I use the same micro SD card every time. 32 gig SanDisk micro SD uh, HC card, and the results speak for themselves. It doesn't seem to matter which adapter I use, the speed is pretty well the same. The slowest adapter I had was the first one. Again, I mangled that one, so that may be the reason for that speed difference. Maybe not making as good a contact as it should internally. But otherwise, they all look the same as far as speed goes. So, bottom line is, it doesn't matter which micro SD adapter you get, because internally, they look the same. So, on the next frame, I'm going to show you what the guts look like of that first one that I tore apart, so that you can see that basically there's no circuitry at all. It's just a pass-through uh, circuit that is pin per pin compatible to the pins on the outside. As you can see, there's one extra pin on the SD adapter, and that's just another ground. Okay, so I'll show you that next, and just so you see what the guts look like and understand that it doesn't matter which micro SD adapter you get for your card, they all are the same internally. So just because it doesn't say micro SD XC on it, that doesn't mean anything. Now, the one thing I did notice in doing this is that when I mangled that first card and the pins weren't contacting the card correctly, I got, amazingly enough, it still worked, but it was way, way slower. So when I bent the pins correctly back and they all made contact again, I got the speed test you see here in the first tab. So here's what you have when you rip open one of these SD card adapters. You'll see that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pins that correspond to the 8 pins on the card itself. But here you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Well, one of them, the two of them are actually ground, so they don't act, both pins do the same thing. So, ground is going to one pin in this case to this card. Over here you have the little lock. It's actually not an electric component. All it does is lock the card down. As you can see, it's a straight through device. Each pin goes straight through to one of these other tabs on the actual SD adapter card. So there's no circuitry in here that that understands that this is an XD or HC or just a regular SD card or what its speed is. All that circuitry is inside this card and inside the card reader. So it doesn't matter which SD card adapter you get. I would say go for the cheapest one you can get. Doesn't seem to be much difference physically in any of them. Note though that if any of these pins get bent or broken, which I did on one of them, the card still worked, but it was way, way slower. I rebent the pin and made it, fashioned it so it would make contact again, and I got, the speeds that you saw on this video. Once again, thanks for watching. I hope that clears up mystery up for you.